So we're with Iain Ward, the king of chemo, on the Raz Report, living a story of inspiration, fighting, but also adventure, not sitting in bed and sulking and saying, why me? You're actually the opposite of that. Serious story to be told, and people like to hear about people who overcome obstacles and struggles. And he's one that talks about only focus on what you can control and kick ass there and have fun while you're doing it. And at the same time, he's raising a ton of money for charities. A ton of money.
Damn right.
I'm your host, Jason Raznick, founder of Benzinga, a leading platform in the financial world with the mission to level the playing field for individual investors. And this is the Raz Report podcast, where we share inspiring stories, expert advice, and exclusive perspectives to keep you ahead of the ever-changing world of investments and entrepreneurship. Let's dive into the show.
All right. I'm truly excited for this edition of the Raz Report. You know I love bringing you inspirational stories you may not have heard about. Actually, you may have heard about this one. He has tons of followers and has accomplished so much. His name is Iain Ward. He goes by the name of the King of Chemo, hence the King crown hat. Iain, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, like real briefly, this is what I know. Obviously, you've seen videos, interviews you've done. I think you have you do have millions and millions of followers on Instagram, etc. You were diagnosed with a terminal brain cancer in 2020. Neurofibrosis, we support a couple programs here in Michigan. And so I know about that for children. For adults, it's different. And instead of just like taking the diagnosis and sit back, you really have been an inspiration to so many. Can you just give like a brief little thing of what happened when you found out and then how you took that news?
Yeah, so I'm very bad at earning money for stuff that I don't like doing. I'm very, very bad at doing anything that I don't like doing. So I was working as a fitness class instructor, and that's not something that you can kind of do a lot of within a week. Often it's, off-peak times based on 9-to-5 work schedules. So I have all the sort of extra time that I wasn't really doing anything with. I didn't really like working in gyms because they're very early starts and I'm not an early bird. And so I would fill in the wallet and pay the bills by kind of doing medical trials. And during one of the medical trials, they had me in to do an MRI scan on my head, which they don't always do. They do, blood tests, physical tests, basic stuff. But this particular medical trial required an MRI. And it's the first MRI I ever did in my life. And they discovered that I had, at the time, a benign tumor, which after the second scan resulted in them saying that, no, we were wrong. This is not benign. This is cancerous, likely to be stage 3. So we have to get on board with, surgery or chemotherapy and all these other, which were options, and don't put a gun to your head and say, like, you must do this. It's a medical choice. But it was either, do you want to go through treatment or not go through treatment? And I wouldn't understand why someone wouldn't go through treatment. And then while I was doing that, COVID had broken out. So just as a way of keeping myself busy and somewhat productive, rather than playing loads of video games with no real end or no real purpose, I thought I'd make a little social media channel for video games. Didn't think that it was going to be like anything of a career, just something to turn like a habit into something a bit more productive. And then that kind of gave me a bit of the idea when they said, right, you're going to be going in for surgery. So it was like, how am I going to address the camera looking at this side of my head if it has a scar on it? And so I just kind of had this idea that I would do something towards charity as a way of addressing the elephant in the room without making it my sole focus. I didn't want to kind of have a big pity party where it's like, oh, I've got a bad thing. Please, everybody, show me some love because I have a bad thing going on in my life, as if everybody doesn't have, burdens to carry. However, once I had my surgery and they had a further test on the tumor, now that they physically could do sort of chemical tests on it and whatnot, they were like, okay, yeah, this is pretty much as bad as we were expecting it to be. It's not worse or better than what we expected. It's stage 3 cancer. It's not a particularly good situation that you're in. And so with that information, I decided to change myself. And it's like, right, well, I'm not just going to sit around and play video games in a somewhat productive way where I'm doing reviews. I'm going to use this situation kind of against itself. And even though I was like, I'm not looking for pity, I was like, I'm going to make this my whole focus now, where everything is about this brain tumor and how I'm using it to try and attract attention, because I knew that brain cancer is very unique for all the other sort of cancers. The chemotherapy treatment is not as heavy because your brain is the most vital organ in your body. Nothing else comes close. And then also, so it was, the chemotherapy is lighter, meaning that I would be able to exercise far more. And then also the way the brain cancer works is that it shuts your body down very quickly, rather than something like lung cancer, which wears you down. So I felt that I could kind of make my own story where it would seem as though it was incredibly difficult for me to go and do physical things because of the nature of my disease, but that I knew that it actually wouldn't, but I could kind of piggyback off of the stereotype that's associated with cancer, and then I could kind of make a little movie. I could be the protagonist in my own movie, and with the goal of breaking a world record for raising the most money ever for running a marathon.
Okay. And so how did you know? Well, I have so many questions. How did you know that it wouldn't make you so tired and stuff? Because you're saying that chemo was it was less intense because it's on the brain, and that's what. So is that why you knew that you wouldn't be as lethargic and you could do this physical activity?
Well, yeah, just apart from anything else, I knew that the chemotherapy would run out. I know that like it lasts a certain amount of time and then you can recover from it. I mean, like Lance Armstrong is a pretty good example of how you can bounce back from that sort of thing. So I knew that was going to be the case at this at the very start. But then I also knew that it wouldn't destroy the muscles that and the like. It would hinder my sort of cardio and my muscles a little bit, but not as much as a more serious form of chemotherapy. And this was information that I got from my doctors and the rest of the staff. So
okay.
I just saw it as an opportunity.
Okay. And so then, and backing up one more thing, you were talking about how you were a physical trainer and you didn't like getting up in the morning and having to do all that. So then you started doing medical trials to get paid. And during a medical trial, they did an MRI scan of your brain, and that is where they found a tumor.
Yep.
So if that medical trial of your brain, if you didn't do this medical trial, so if you didn't do the medical trial, then what would have happened, I guess?
I would have been gonzo. Definitely. I would not be alive today. It would have been like, discovering through having headaches or having problems, inability to speak, slurring my words, being dizzy, all sorts of stuff like that, all load of bad stuff. And then I would go into the hospital and say, like, and especially if it was like, if that sort of started showing its ugly face during COVID, I'd no chance I'd be alive now if that medical trial hadn't happened. It would have been massively delayed. I would have had to, sort of go into the hospital being like, here, look, I'm having a lot of problems here. I don't know what it is. And then eventually they might take me seriously and be like, okay, cool, you can come into the hospital and get seen. But I would not have gotten it. It wouldn't have just be like, hey, I need to see my GP.
Yep.
General practitioner. I don't know if they use that over on your side of the pond. Yeah, but so that no way. Would have been 6 foot under by now, or at least in a very bad health condition than I am compared to now.
All right. So we're with Iain Ward, the king of chemo. I know you're not a doctor, but given your experience, would you suggest that everyone gets MRIs of their brain?
Well, that's the problem with that is the MRI is a very specific sort of machine, and they're very, very, very expensive to run. So it's not like you can just go into. There's a reason why they sort of don't just sort of hand them out, is because to actually run an MRI machine is extremely expensive, because it's like, have you ever taken an MRI yourself?
Yes, in that little tube.
Yeah. So like, as you can see, like, it's an engineering feat. It's a massive object.
Oh, yeah.
It's bigger than, like, the engine that you'd see on a train.
Oh yeah.
So they can't just sort of like, hey, everybody, come on in. And then even within that, it's like, why would you have a scan for your head? Why not have a scan for your chest? Why not have a scan for, it's like you got to look around everywhere, which actually takes a while. So you have to kind of almost know that there's something. You have to have an idea of where to look in the first place. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it. It's a bit like, you could think of it as like the MRI in this metaphor is a nuclear bomb, or a bomb that you're attacking on a sort of a big country war zone. You can't just start like throwing them anywhere and hoping for the best. You're gonna want to target certain areas. Are like, if you want to win the war, you need to take out their military production facilities and whatnot. So like, there's no point in just sort of dropping the bombs everywhere. You have to know where your targets are before it's effective. And it's the same with an MRI. You have to know where to look before you can actually kind of zoom in on it. It's like it's more of a telescope than it is like, a new version of seeing the body.
Yep. Understood. Okay. And so you were adventurous and athletic before this diagnosis. Just, is that how you just always were? And when you got the diagnosis, you just took it up another notch?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Like, for the last, I don't know how many years, every time I have a birthday, I try to do something fairly physically difficult, just as a way of being like a reminder to myself of you're not getting old, sort of thing. Where it's like, if you're still able to do this, don't let age be like a thing that intimidates you.
So when you received the diagnosis, were you what was your mindset? Did you, like, were you motivated right away instead of like a pity party kind of thing? Like, what was your mindset when you first got the diagnosis?
Oh no! Like, I hate pity. Pity does not help. It comes from a nice place. If someone gives it to someone else, I understand that it's not like it's a bad emotion. But for me, it's just not a helpful situation. My doctor read me pretty well, and he knew that I didn't need to hear kind of "Are you okay?" but rather to focus on something else, so that I could keep my mind on doing something, as opposed to the feeling of sitting in a chair being like, what do I do now? I'm much more of a kind of like, right, let's try and solve the problem as soon as possible, rather than dwell on it. And so he just started saying like, okay, these are your treatments. You can do it awake, you can do it asleep, you can under anesthetic, you can do like, radiotherapy, you can not do radiotherapy. Don't you start. This is an automatic lens and tends to follow me around a bit. I don't know why it's decided to turn on now as opposed to the very start of this conversation, but there you go. That's the AI. So yeah, that was my kind of way of thinking.
Yeah. So given that you said, okay, I'm going to go attack this thing with the vigor that I can, you ended up creating this whole journey and impacted others and inspired, like, the name King of Chemo. Did you just come up with that, or like, how did that become a thing?
It's something that we say in our group of friends, where it's just like, you're the king of whatever. And it stems from one of our friends. When we were on a holiday, he once said the local people were calling him the king of Crete, and we just found it really funny. So we've just kind of said that to each other our whole lives. You can insert anything into the end of that sort of title, as I'm the king of mobile phones, I'm the king of Riverside FM.
Yep, totally. So mental health wise, when you wake up in the morning, do you have this vigor, this energy that you seem like you have now? Like, during all this, do you ever get, I know you said you're so against pity, but do you ever get depressed, anxious, any of that kind of stuff?
I mean, anxious, certainly. Yeah. Like, having a platform that's as big as mine, the slightest little slip, and, you can have like a lot of, an avalanche of negativity going around. And so there's a bit of that, because I do not have a very filtered sense of opinion or sense of humor. And so I got to try and make sure that doesn't punch through into the Instagram, because then the algorithm itself wouldn't like that. And then there'd be a load of people that would be like, oh, he said like that thing that I don't agree with mildly, and so therefore I'm gonna like unfollow him because his journey is meaningless now, because he disagreed. I disagree with his opinion on something.
Yep, totally get what you're saying. So it's like, it's sometimes, I don't think you do this, but it's sometimes in the U.S. you say walking on eggshells, and I don't think you're walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
Because I think you're outspoken and you say your opinion, but you have to be careful. Like that's kind of the world.
Oh yeah, I mean, like it's just part of modern. If you want to achieve something that's sort of in my what I'm trying to do is get as many followers as possible. So like in terms of opinions, I'm very opinionated, but I will always stay completely neutral to any kind of political issue, worldwide issue, social issue. I'm never going to pick a side. I have a side in here that I'll be choosing, but I'm never going to say it in public because it gets in the way of what I'm trying to achieve, and it doesn't have any positive effects. So at any kind of election, all right, let's say I go with candidate number A as opposed to candidate number B. The people who support B are going to get upset and unfollow my account. The people who support A, it's not like I'm going to get more A's over to follow me. It's not like, hey, he chose this person, let's all follow him. It's only a negative thing. No one ever sort of follows the account because of your choices in life, but they will unfollow your account for the choices you have.
That's a good point. That's a good way. It's a good way to look at it. Yeah, I hear your point. So you, what has been like the most rewarding part of this journey of this marathons and giving to charities and raising money for mental health, cancer charities? What has been one of the most rewarding parts of it, of the journey so far?
Oh, that's a real tricky one to go on. I think there's just a deep level of satisfaction that I kind of have all the time now where I'm doing something that's meaningful and it's working. So it's like the idea was correct, and then it's just like it's exciting. It's exciting, particularly at the moment. Like we went through a long period of like 8 months where we were just kind of twiddling our feet, and all the videos that we were releasing weren't really having any kind of effect. And then we got a great big jolt recently enough, and it's sort of great to be back on the back on track and sort of seeing progress be made and effort having a positive response.
Got it. Okay. Now this is something I really want to hit on. You've spoken about freakish luck in your life. How do you maintain this?
Oh yeah.
Like, how do you maintain this perspective, and how has it helped you cope with your diagnosis? So freakish luck.
Yeah, well, that was actually something that my doctor said. The luckiest unlucky man in the world is kind of a rewording of what he told me, but he did say, like, look, you're unlucky.
Wait, you said it so fast. What was the line you said your doctor said? The luckiest man or something?
No, I came up with that one, but he said that you are in a very unlucky bracket of human beings to have brain cancer. However, you are freakishly lucky that within that bracket of people, you've discovered it. Whereas 30-year-olds never discover it. It's just not done. It's like there's no kind of, I went in just to get like you said, where earlier on with the MRI thing, where it's like my advice to get everyone scanned. It's like, it's not something people do. Unless there's a reason for you to get checked, unless you're a hypochondriac, you're not going to go in and be like, hi, can you spend here's a load of money to pay for the medical tests. Can you just test everything in my body? Because it's like, it's a lot of time and it's a lot of money, and it's sort of, why are you doing it in the first place if you don't kind of have a reason to do it? Prevention is better than cure. So if you want to put all that effort in, why don't you buy the best gym that's near where you live, and buy the best food? And that's probably a smarter investment of time and money rather than going into the doctor and being like, check everything for me. I have no symptoms, but check everything anyway.
That's a good point. So it's like the shit I'm putting in my body, which is shit a lot of times, I should be focused on eating healthy food versus my Skittles.
Yeah, well, there's that, but then you could compare the same sort of thing to running a car, where it's like if you're constantly sort of tinkering with the car yourself, where you're sort of going out and you're checking that the brake fluid is good, and you're driving it in a way that's not going to put pressure on the car, and all using the best quality fuel, all that blah blah blah. It means that you're probably not going to have to go into the mechanic to be like, there's something wrong when I turn my car.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, yeah. So then the freakish luck thing, though, your doctor said it, but do you live that freakish luck thing going forward? Like thinking, hey, I had this freakish luck, so now I'm taking this freakish luck and taking it to another level. Is that something you live by,
Well,
or is it more like, hey, I did the freakish luck to find out I had it?
well, it's not so much something that I live by. Unfortunately, I can't actually give good advice about my mental health state um, because I never had symptoms. I had some scares, I had some seizures and some problems with some other stuff, but like they kind of tended to pass. So time wise, it wasn't something that was like wearing me down a lot. So I didn't kind of sit down and meditate and do certain things to kind of bring my mind back into focus. It just kind of, the symptoms of the problems passed. And then so I just naturally went back to a normal state of mind. So I'm not able to pass on that knowledge. But in terms of the whole luckiest unlucky man in the world, that like a big part of that was like, okay, if you're the luckiest unlucky man in the world, that's something that transfers instantly over to what so many stories are for films or like fairy tales, old mythology. They're all really lucky people who then are kind of in unlucky situations. It's all about that sort of dynamic of, Captain America. He became Captain America because he was the small guy, the weak guy, but he stood out because he had all these trials and tribulations built from when he was small, or like as in like small as in like young. And then he was the person who was most sort of adapt for the situation, for like the special super soldier serum stuff. And then try saying that 10 times really fast.
Yeah.
And then because of that, he had like problems growing up. So then now he's this big hulking superstar guy, and now he has this strong mental sort of platform that has been built before he got all this sort of muscle. And I saw that was a similar sort of situation where I have all these problems to deal with that are associated with cancer, and if I put a camera to it, then it's entertaining. It's a decent story. So it's just sort of, I keep thinking like that I am in a movie, and it's like I get to write my own movie, and like what do I want my character to do?
Yeah, I mean, I saw that you were working on selling your story to movie production studio. Have you made progress on that?
I mean, we have a documentary being one of my friends,
That's,
Michael, is making a
that's what I'm
documentary
talking
about.
about. The
Okay,
documentary.
yeah. No, we've got documentary. No, not a not a like a feature length film.
Yeah,
Just
documentary.
maybe someday.
Yeah.
Yeah, documentary is being made. Like my friend Michael Fitzpatrick and a few other people have volunteered as editors and camera guys to help out with that, and so
That's
that's
progressing.
yeah.
So what were some unexpected challenges like you encountered during the cycling part of the journey? Or no challenges, and then that's great.
Sorry, the Edinburgh to Paris cycle, or like the 32 county cycle, or just a cycle as a general sort of concept?
Cycling as a general concept. Like, so I know people I have some friends who are big cyclers, and they tell me these stories that when they first got into it, they had no idea what they're getting into. The pain, the tires being flat, and just like
Okay,
different things. Yeah. I don't know.
I think definitely the biggest challenge that I came across was I don't even know if I'd consider it a challenge because I didn't overcome it. It was more the thing that was causing the most sort of problems, and that was a simple algorithm change in TikTok that really drove me mad for quite a long time, simply because my videos were slowly progressing up, and then literally like overnight they just stopped. And it was at the time I thought that it was something known as a shadow ban, which is where they don't tell you that you've been flagged, or you're swearing too much in your videos, or you're not allowed to do X, Y, and Z, and so you're prevented from doing whatever. But they just start sort of categorizing you in that situation, and there's not necessarily proof that that's happened on TikTok necessarily, but like there's loads of cases of things like that being shut down without there being quite a justification. And even though it turned out that that was actually just an algorithm change and many other people were going through the same sort of situation, nothing changed in terms of like the followers or how well the retention rate was on my TikTok. But it was just like a great relief in my mind that it's like, okay, cool, this is everybody. Everybody's going through the same thing. I'm not just being picked on. Because it's like, I thought that it was, I might have been getting picked on because what I'm asking people to do is follow the account, not ask for donations. And I was like, maybe they think that that's a scam, so that's why I'm being shadow banned. But no, it went. It turned out that it wasn't at all. And even though it was still kind of annoying that the progress had slowed down, it was actually just it didn't bother me at all after finding out that.
Did the algorithm ever improve so you're surfacing better again?
Not really, to be honest. Like TikTok has improved recently, but it was basically just one video did extremely well. And then now the rest of them, it's just sort of like doesn't quite go out to as many members of my audience. Instagram is far more, as a creator, Instagram is far more satisfying to go through because your videos can still do really well. They can still blow up. They can still get 20 million views and that sort of really, really impressive numbers. But then the next videos that you do, they'll show it to your followers. Whereas TikTok seems to do something that's a bit more, if your video is excellent, they'll show it to lots of people. But if it's not, they won't show it to your audience, which is helpful for some kind of creators. But what I'm trying to do is telling a story that's more kind of like a documentary of my own life, diary entries of my own life. And so loads of those videos aren't particularly interesting unless you follow my account. So it's like if I'm giving an update about my marathon training, or if I'm giving an update about my latest scan on my latest MRI scan, the followers or the subscribers are interested because they're following my journey along. But someone who doesn't know me, who doesn't follow the accounts, they don't like, not like in a cold-hearted way, but like they don't care. They're like, hey, I'm going in for an MRI scan tomorrow. It's like, okay, so there's a million other people. Who are you? I don't know who you are. It's like, it's not like, it doesn't matter to me much.
They got to be familiar with you. And then isn't the screenshot that you put on your image that shows up so important too? That shows up in search, like on YouTube, on Instagram. If you do a story, there's going to be a photo, like a placeholder screen. Like if I saw your story, there's always one photo that's like people are either going to click it or not click it.
Yeah. It's that sort of thing. It's like people it shows up, and if you're interested, you can sort of find out what's going on.
Yeah. Like if I was, that's like right now we pick a screenshot, but if I did something crazy, if I would like stand on top, like a rope between two buildings, people are way more likely to click it versus me just sitting at a table. That's like, whatever you can do to or stand in my underwear, like people will click, like, what's he doing? So one thing you talked about big time was
what's the name of that documentary again? I remember like the French guy went in between the two twin towers.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I was thinking about. And I remember seeing that, and you had to watch it. Like when it was on, I had to watch it to see what would happen.
Like he's such an energetic character. I can't remember what his name is. It starts with a P. He's a wonderful guy.
I watched it a while ago. But you've spoken about controlling what you can and not dwelling on what you can't. I
think everybody should do that. There's no benefits to dwelling on something that you can't control. You can't have an influence of.
Is that just how you always been?
Yeah, I think that's something that was. It's always been the way I've sort of done things.
And then, are there any strategies, or just you, that keep your mind on positive actions and goals despite difficulties you face? You seem like a very positive person. Even though encountering difficulties, are there any actions or strategies you take? Like if something negative enters your mind, do you just hit yourself in the head and say, hey, get your mind out of that? Or are you just always a positive person?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a human being. There's no way you don't have to sort of find ways to get away from that. And sometimes it's physically doing something different. Like if it's something that is on your phone, simply getting away from the phone and sort of often I kind of maybe often it's not on my own profile, but I'll see a negative video and everybody's going this person's blah 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 blah, And often I quite want to step in and just be like, just because everything is so divisive and it's something that I really dislike because it doesn't help. Like, we're all humans, we're all on the same team. Everybody has their own sort of cultural differences. And it's fair that there's like a little bit of a clash from time to time. That's healthy. But like, there's far too much like, every woman is terrible. Every man is terrible. It's like, well, actually, we get along quite well. You're just looking at like, this guy who's a twat and then this girl who's a nightmare. And it's like, stop focusing on those two people and start thinking about like the rest of the 99% of the population who get along just fine. And so I often will like drop a comment into videos like that where it's like, I don't think this person is this evil because of this. And then I'll get some responses. Some of them are highly negative, and I'll then want to respond to them. And then often it can kind of get into a bit of a spiral, and I start thinking, okay, the first comment I think did actually have a reasoning behind it, because it was like, let's show another way of seeing and perceiving this, because that often can sort of change someone's perspective. And then, but the more you kind of go into the comments after that, it's like, this is the sort of the what is it? The depleting services? No, point of diminishing returns. Point of diminishing returns on like the amount of time I could write on my phone to respond to like this one individual, and it's not really going to get through to them because they're already like quite hardline on whatever their point is, and other people aren't going to. So it's like, all right, I'm going to put my phone down and step back, because it's like, what does this achieve? I start asking myself that a lot. Like, what does this achieve? Is this a good thing? Are you going to change this person's mind? Are a lot of people going to see this argument and maybe you could change their minds? No? Then what's the point in you doing the thing? Because it serves no purpose. It doesn't help anyone. So why should you spend your time when you're not going to do something good? And it's like, even if you were to look at that from like a, you're an evil salesman and all your products are terrible and you want to sell more products because you love money and you're all greedy and whatnot. It's still, there's a reason for you to sell those products, because you want something from it. You gain something from it. So like, often people do so many things, they sort of voice their opinions because they think that it's like a sort of a good usage of their time. But when you really break it down and think there's no reason to do this, it's a lot easier to step back from that same situation. And I feel like I tried to find a good reason, something that is tangible that people can all relate to, but you can apply that same logic to absolutely anything. Like, you're getting really upset over, bad news that you have received, and you can't just stand up from the couch. It's that bad, and you keep thinking about it. And then if you can just kind of be like, look, the more I think about this is not going to help the situation that I'm in. Let's just take the dog out for a walk or something. And you just try to, let's just just go over and start cooking dinner. Do something that just kind of gets you out of that like negative sort of mind process that's not getting you anywhere. And often you can just start doing something else and your mind will just sort of like press the reset button, and then you can start getting back on in life.
Yeah, no, makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. Like, that's a great way to put it. Like, just change what you're doing. Don't just sit there and keep thinking about it. So we're with, Iain Ward, the king of chemo on Instagram, 6.6 million followers. Does Instagram pay money?
6.6.
So I said 6.6.
Oh, wow. Sorry, I thought it was 6.5.
6.6. Yeah.
That's great news.
Yes, 6.6. I'm at
Brilliant.
Yes. Does Instagram pay money?
Well, we have a subscription thing on it that people get absolutely zero from it, but it's a way of us being able to actually pay the bills. Right. But we haven't asked anyone for more subscribers from that, because we're doing all right with money at the moment.
I know Snapchat pays. I think TikTok pays a little bit, and YouTube pays. But I heard YouTube doesn't pay much. But that's that would. But you don't do YouTube, right? Or you do?
No, Snapchat. I think I have an account, but I don't think I've actually put much effort into it. Yeah, the big three are TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Those are the ones that are we're most familiar with. But like whatever your social media account is that you use yourself, this goes out to the listeners. If you just type in the King of Chemo, I'm on as many platforms as you can imagine. We kind of set them all up a while ago. It's just a matter of which ones get used the most.
So you're raising money for charity, but you also hopefully you're making some money for yourself with all the effort you're putting into this stuff.
No. Making enough money to get by, making enough money to pay for management and certain kind of trips. But you're never ever going to see me driving a Ferrari. No way. That's not what I'm about.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like with 6.6 million followers, like it's like your message. My point is, your message needs to get out there of positivity and control what you can control. And with more money allows you to do get the message out more. Is that kind of what I was getting at? Like sort of like if you make more money, then you can spend money to get your story out there more to help inspire others to see, hey, no matter where I'm at in life, like, this is where I was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. Now look, that's sort of like, and people are going to find you through organic search, like doing these interviews. I don't know if there's a bigger way to there's hundreds of millions of people, right? Billions of people. How do we get that message out even further, I guess, is kind of what I'm thinking.
Well, I mean, like, I definitely hardline do believe spend money to make money. That's certainly been proven that if you're smart about it. But like, we already kind of do that. Like we said, like that's literally the merchandise that we're going to be releasing very soon. And, obviously the setting that up, getting the design done, getting the t-shirts actually made, that costs money. But I just want to try and like distance myself from anyone associating like my success with a really big house and sort of fancy clothes.
No, I know you're doing this out of your bedroom today.
Pardon?
You're doing this.
Oh yeah.
You're doing this out of your bedroom. People see that you're not in some big ivory tower, as they say in the U.S.
No, it's like apart from anything else. I mean, something that I've heard from Mr. Beast was a guy who was a big part of my my own inspiration because he like does loads for charity, but like his whole thing is like all the money that he gets, he just spends on the next video, and that's why his videos are so sort of entertaining because he seems to not really care so much about
money,
sort of objects and expensive things as much. But I did hear him in an interview before where he was like, yeah, I was just living in a normal house until like someone broke into my house and stole my laptop, and there was all like previous videos and all sorts of content. So I feel like I'm kind of waiting for that thing as well. And then he because he had so many followers, like I'm very far from that level of fame. Yes. But like he was saying that like from that point he just had to move into a gated community, otherwise it was like he's going to keep getting robbed because people found out where he lives. So in a way, it's like kind of hopefully I end up in that situation where it becomes a needs must. But that would also mean that if I have that many followers, that surely I've absolutely blitzed that world record for raising the most amount of money ever for charity. And like we're in a much sort of more significant charitable donation world record, which I want to break after the marathon. And that's the world record for most money raised for a charity walk, which is nearly 10 times the amount of money as the world record for most money raised for a marathon.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
But we'll talk about that after I break the first world record.
So you're now like, around 34?
35. It was my birthday about a month ago.
Okay, and you were told, you had a few more. Happy birthday! You had a few years to live. You've definitely passed that. Are you like for people catching on to your story?
Not quite. I got one more year to go past, and then we're able to be like, "Yeah, doctors, we beat you." Not that the doctors are going to be like, "Oh, damn, he beat the stats."
But so would they say you're in remission?
So my kind of brain cancer, unfortunately, they're not able to say I'm in remission because I might be in remission. For people that don't know about the cancer, the way that the reason people say remission is because we all have cancer constantly. Every single human being, the first like newborn babies, doesn't matter how healthy they are, everyone has a tiny amount of cancer in their body at all times. It's just a matter of how large the cancer can get until it's detected. And that's when they say, okay, you've kind of reached the amount that we can see. So now we can say you have cancer. And then once you've had cancer, they kind of know that the chances of you having a recurring amount of cancer again is extremely high. So even though they can't detect anything, they don't say you're cured because they feel that that's misleading. And so they say you're in remission, meaning that they've gotten rid of all of the visible scannable tumors and sort of things that identify as cancer. Now, unfortunately, with brain cancer, one of the things that they can't really do, I think this is not exclusive for brain cancer, but I only know my own situation. The scarring that I have on my brain from the craniotomy that I went through, from the brain surgery that I went through, apparently scar tissue looks very similar to a tumor. So I could be completely cancer free, but because when they go in for the second scan, for the other MRI scans to check up on me, they're not able to tell whether what's in my brain is a scar tissue, which is harmless, or it's bits of brain tumor that just aren't growing, because the last,
Got it.
I think 5 or 6 scans that I had was showed no growth, which is obviously great news. But I'm never going to be in a situation where we're able to be like, that's cancerous, or sorry, that's not cancerous, that because it could be.
Got it. Understood. All right, we're finishing up with Iain Ward, the king of chemo. We're asking 2 quick rapid fire questions. What advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
20-year-old self. Start jiu-jitsu.
That's
Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
That's effing hilarious. Why are you saying that?
Because I started it when I was in my late 20s, and it's just brilliant. It's such a great sense of community. I probably would have same advice for like startup, being more creative on social media sooner. Something on
jiu-jitsu. Let's stay with that. So I'm right now, I was 218 weight wise. I'm now down to 209. My son, who's 12, he said he would do jiu-jitsu, start it if I got down to below 195. I need to get to like 180, 175. Okay. And so I want him to start.
Tell your son Brazilian jiu-jitsu is amazing.
I want him to start it so bad for like.
You can see my old belt. Hey, camera, do what I tell you.
I want him to start it so bad because he's a little.
That's my old belt there that I don't use anymore, just because I hurt my knee, and it's a question of, do you want to do the marathons or do you want to do jiu-jitsu?
My son is athletic. He's 12. He's a little small for his age, and I think it would give him self-confidence that would help him throughout life. And I'm like, so now I know you said community aspect of it. I didn't talk about that, but I think it's a confidence, and I feel like I feel like he just has to do it, you know?
Oh, it's like, I'd advise it to absolutely everybody, especially women, because in terms of self-defense, striking is good. But the thing is that like, if someone is just a particular size larger than you and they're going for you, like, it doesn't matter how skillful you are at striking someone back. If they're, twice the size of you, they can just kind of momentum-wise barrel over you. And then once you're on the ground, striking is not as effective. You can't sort of ground yourself. You can't twist your shoulders. You can't put the power of your hips into the tip of your fist. So jiu-jitsu, it doesn't matter what your size is. It really doesn't. It's like trying to get a monkey off your back, If you don't have the flexibility to get that monkey off your back, it doesn't matter how big and strong you are. That monkey can pull your hair and knock your glasses off.
How many years have you been doing it?
Not that many years at all. I don't do it anymore just because I hurt my knee a little bit, and jiu-jitsu, is obviously based around joints quite a lot. And so it's just a life decision for me to be like, do you want to, I could still do jiu-jitsu. I'd still miss it so much. I constantly kind of think back to going into the schools. But if I was to really hurt my knee, it would then mean that I couldn't run the marathons. And that's more important to me now. But it is, from my medical situation, it's definitely the thing that I miss the most. It's not been taken away from me because of my medical situation, but my medical situation opened up all this focus on running marathons, which I don't actually like doing. I used to like doing it when I was smaller and it was more, I was quicker, but now it's a sludge. No, for me, I love lifting weights, still do. And I love jiu-jitsu, but gotta kind of, you can't do anything amazing in life without sacrifice. And I think jiu-jitsu was my sacrifice.
Got it. Okay, I understand. And then the last question, if you could get one message out to 1 billion people, what would it be and why?
Stop complaining about things so much.
Okay. I like that. All right. That is good. So we're with Iain Ward, the king of chemo, on the Raz Report, living a story of inspiration, fighting, going through obstacles, and sharing his journey. If you want to be inspired, check him out on Instagram. Check him out on TikTok. 5.5 million followers. Serious story to be told, and people like to hear about people who overcome obstacles and struggles. And he's one that talks about only focus on what you can control and kick ass there and have fun while you're doing it. And at the same time, he's raising a ton of money for charities.
Damn right.
So this is awesome. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate it. What were you going to say?
Could I go back to the don't complain thing and add one little additive to that? Rather than don't complain, how about you're not allowed complain unless you're doing something for the thing that you're complaining about?
Okay.
I'd prefer to have that one.
Yeah, I like
because you can complain. It's a good thing to complain in some ways, but if you're not actually doing anything, I feel like you don't have the right to complain.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing something, you're not getting out of your chair, you're going out and you're actually making a difference to whatever thing that you're about to complain about. Like if you say like, that's bad form on like lifting a weight. It's like, do you do that yourself? Right. Well, keep it like that. Or if it's like, that's a rude thing to say to those people. It's like, okay, how often do you help out, those people that you're talking about? If you don't do anything, zip it.
It's a good point.
Stop spreading out negativity in the world. Get out there and be the difference rather than complain that someone isn't doing what you'd like them to do. And if you don't do it yourself.
Yeah, it's like people like on TV, someone's like, oh, that guy is this and that. Like, stop bitching. Focus on yourself. And so I get it. I have a friend, Kevin O'Leary, is like on Shark Tank, and he would get a lot of shit from people, but he's out there making a brand for himself and building a business. So, yep. All right. Well,
someone sees like someone littering on the ground, and it's like, fair enough. It's a good thing to go over and say like, here, you shouldn't litter. It's like, this is your home. You live here. It's your street, but it's like, it's a public street, but you live here. But if you're not willing to be like, I'm going to pick up this can that someone like this Coke can that someone threw on the ground and like put it into the bin yourself and be like, here, lad, like you shouldn't do that in the future. Cause it's like, it's nice. It's your street rather than being like, man, don't bother unless you're going to, anyway, I'm getting on a rant here. I actually do talk to people when I see them litter. Talk, not give out. Talk.
Do they fight? Do they argue with you?
I have never had a response that was like a really sort of, are you allowed to swear on this?
Yep.
Yeah, I've never had someone be like, fuck off, get away from me. I literally just go over and say like, here, lads, like, I used to do that when I was a kid as well, but then I sort of started thinking differently about like the streets that I hang around and live on are basically like my house. And it's not like you throw a Coke can, so like, been over there. You, as long as it's not insulting, people will listen far more to whatever your idea is.
All right. No, I agree with you. It's good. That was good. Well, I thank you, man. Iain, that your story of it is inspiration, but also adventure, not sitting in bed and sulking and saying, why me? You're actually the opposite of that. So I think people need to hear that, because that's what you could have been. I also harken back to the beginning. Maybe I need to sign up for some medical trials, and find out what I find out.
Yeah. Get paid to find out your problems in your health.
Get paid in a lot of ways. I did get a calcium score for my heart. But anyway, all right. We are with the king of chemo. We on the Raz Report. Iain, thank you for joining us. We're going to continue to watch your journey, follow your journey, and then see when your documentary comes out about your life, because you're doing great things. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks very much for having me on.
Thank you.